2022 has been a pretty miserable year. Not only was there a global energy crisis, a global food crisis, and various climate-related crises, but 2022 also marked the return of conventional warfare. There was an escalation in Nagorno-Karabakh, continued violence in Ethiopia, and obviously Putin's invasion of Ukraine. All in all, between 200,000 and 300,000 people have been killed by conventional warfare in 2022, the highest figure since at least 1988 and perhaps since 1972. Given all this, we thought it would make sense to look at the conflicts to watch in 2023. As we see it, there are at least 5 places worth keeping an eye on this year. First, and most obviously, there's the ongoing war in Ukraine. Second is Taiwan, third is Ethiopia, fourth is Kosovo, and fifth is Nagorno-Karabakh. Let's start with Ukraine. We're not going to talk about this one for too long because, well, you probably already know all you need to know about it. Most analysts expect the war in Ukraine will continue into 2024, for the relatively simple reason that the Ukrainians won't accept any territorial concessions. And Putin needs territorial concessions for any politically palatable stalemate. Metacalculus, which basically aggregates expert forecasts to come up with a probability for some event occurring, puts the odds of a peace agreement before 2024 at 26%. So it seems that war in Ukraine is likely to continue throughout 2023. Second on our list is Taiwan. We've covered the Taiwan issue and the question of when China might invade in more detail in other TLDR global videos. But the TLDR is that the CCP and Xi Jinping have made it clear that they want Taiwan back. Ultimately, no one knows when or even if the CCP are planning to invade, but there's some evidence to suggest they're going to do it soon. In 2021, Xi apparently accelerated the PLA's modernisation schedule, which means they're now expected to become a modern army by 2027 instead of 2035. This might be because new US military tech is supposed to come online in 2027, which is when China's military advantage in the Taiwan Strait is expected to wane. This would suggest that, if the CCP are planning on invading Taiwan, they're going to do it before 2027. If this analysis is correct, then 2023 wouldn't be unreasonable. The US is currently tied up in Ukraine, and a global recession might make the West think twice about imposing sanctions akin to those imposed on Russia against China. If this were to happen, it would probably happen in October, in between Taiwan's 2 monsoon seasons. Now, we should say that not everybody thinks that the CCP are going to invade. While military analysts are generally more anxious about an imminent invasion, political analysts are generally a bit more relaxed. They point to the fact that, whatever's happening with the PLA, China's anti-secession law stipulates that non-peaceful means would only be used against Taiwan when all other possibilities have been completely exhausted. And Xi has stressed that time and momentum are on Beijing's side. On top of that, China's economy isn't in great nick, and it's not clear that the CCP can even afford a wartime mobilization. Nonetheless, given how much tension over the Taiwan Strait escalated in 2022, it's definitely one to keep an eye on. Third on our list is Ethiopia. Again, we've covered this conflict in more detail in other TLDR global videos, but the TLDR is that while the civil war between the Tigrayan rebels and the federal forces seemed to have died down, the long-running conflict, which has lasted over 2 years and claimed more lives than even Ukraine, is still threatening to destabilize both the country and the wider region. Essentially, both the Tigrayan rebels and federal forces teamed up with militias from the 2 largest ethnic groups in Ethiopia, the Oromo and the Amhara, who each represent about 30% of the population. The Tigrayans teamed up with the Amhara Liberation Army, while the federal forces teamed up with the Amhara ethnic militia, known as the Fano. The sight of Amhara and Amhara fighting against each other has inflamed pre-existing tensions between the 2 groups, sparking bouts of inter-ethnic violence. On top of that, there were credible reports that Eritrean troops are still in Tigray, looting and killing Tigrayans. The Eritreans helped Ethiopia's federal forces defeat the Tigrayans, but they've refused to abide by the terms of the recent ceasefire, which requires all, quote, non-ENDF forces, i.e. anyone not involved with Ethiopia's federal military, to leave Tigray. The point here is that while the main conflict between the federal forces and the Tigrayans has died down, it's still destabilised the region, and further conflict looks likely in 2023. Fourth on the list is Kosovo. Over the last few months, tensions between Serbia and Kosovo have escalated, as Kosovan authorities have tried to push through a law requiring ethnic Serbs living in Kosovo, many of whom don't recognise Kosovo as a legitimate state, to switch over to Kosovan licence plates. Serbia's nationalist president, Aleksandar Vučić, has responded by threatening to send in the Serbian army, and tensions are still running high. While a full-blown conflict still looks unlikely, largely because Kosovo houses over 3,000 NATO troops and tensions have receded somewhat in the last couple of weeks as ethnic Serbs have dismantled their roadblocks, the fact that this issue has escalated as quickly as it did in 2022 is cause for concern, and European politicians would be wise to keep an eye on it going into 2023. Fifth on the list is Nagorno-Karabakh, otherwise known as Artsakh by Armenians. Nagorno-Karabakh is a region to the east of Armenia proper, which is recognised by most of the international community as part of Azerbaijan. This is a long-running dispute, but things escalated in September when Azeri forces fired on Armenian troops in Armenia proper, having previously only fired on Armenian troops in Nagorno-Karabakh. While the violence has since died down, last month Azerbaijan imposed a blockade on Nagorno-Karabakh, creating shortages in the region and putting more political pressure on Yerevan. This newfound confidence on the part of Azerbaijan is probably due to the fact that Russia, who were previously Armenia's only real security partner, are currently preoccupied in Ukraine. This has, understandably, caused quite some consternation in Armenia, and Armenia's president has threatened to leave the Collective Security Treaty Organization, a mutual defense pact led by Russia between a bunch of post-Soviet Eurasian states. The president was apparently upset at the lack of response from CSTO members, especially Russia, when Azerbaijan attacked in September. Given that Russia is likely to be preoccupied in Ukraine until at least 2024, we should expect more aggressive actions from Azerbaijan this year, and possibly further escalation. So those are the 5 conflicts to watch this year, and everyone's hoping that issues like this will resolve. Now, heading into 2023, everyone's hoping that issues like this will resolve. But if world leaders are anything like us, resolutions and plans for the new year are already out the window. If you do want to improve yourself though, maybe pick up a new resolution and sign up to Brilliant, the STEM learning platform which helps you with exciting new science and maths topics through engaging and interactive experiences. Their courses, including ones co-designed by YouTubers including Kurzgesagt and fellow Nebula creator Real Engineering, bring the topics to life and let you learn by doing, not just sitting in a class like at school. That means that all kinds of topics which previously seemed a little too complex might suddenly be in your grasp. That's things like algebra, geometry, the physics of every day, or even gravitational physics. So up your game in STEM in 2023 to improve your understanding of the world, boost your career, help at school or university, or even just for the sake of lifelong learning. Plus, the first 200 people to sign up using our code get 20% off an annual premium subscription, which is probably a bigger win than most people's 2023 resolutions have been. Anyway, thanks for your support.